G'day folks, welcome to another exciting episode of Learn to Paint TV. Rod Moore here with you again from the Learn to Paint Academy and of course Learn to Paint TV. This week what we're going to do is a little scene that I saw when I was driving in the country in New South Wales near Kapiti Valley, and there's a little town called Safala and another one called Hills End, and halfway between those I came across these old, I guess they were old miners' houses and buildings, outbuildings. So I'm going to start off with step one, which is our drawing. We need to translate that there into a drawing on the canvas there. We'll do that using a small flat brush as such. And I've got two colours, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson are the two colours I use for my drawing with just a little bit of water. So I'll start off with holding the photo just so I can get a little bit of accuracy. Now, the thing about the Moore method of painting is that you don't need to be a fantastic drawer. It's really about just getting shapes, the right shapes in the right place. So we've got these three little buildings. We're going to pop one there. That side wall there is all in, it's all in shadow. And then the roof comes down to there, across that way. Okay. And then there's a beautiful green bush there. Let's bring that down to there. And then this runs up, and it's quite an unusual little shape. So I imagine that it's an old miner's cottage of some sort. It probably wants to be a little touch wider, so I'll just run it out to there, run the roof line, and then we'll redo that pitch to there. There we go. That's looking a bit better. So as I said, with the Moore method of painting, you don't need to be a great drawer, because really all we're hoping to achieve here is that we're just placing our shapes in the right spot. Just getting big shapes mapped in. As long as they're in the right spot and they're roughly the right shape, then we're going to be good to go. It's got nice shadows in here. All that wall there is in shadow, and it adds for a really nice effect with that sunlight catching on the corrugated iron on top. Sorry, a little bit of running paint there, that's okay. And then this one connects to, or the way the photo is taken is that it's taken in such a way that they overlap. Okay, so we've got a longer one there. There's shadow in through there, and all that wall's in shadow. And you've got a couple of brighter bushes catching into a bit of sunlight there. Okay, there's a little bit of shadow under a window there, and there's shadow in there. Okay, so far so good. Then look, there's another little one, and I probably haven't allowed myself enough space, but I'll just run that out the side of the painting if need be. So just like another old shack or outbuilding there. I'll raise that hill up a little bit. It's not actually up like that in the photo, but we'll raise it up a little just to make it a bit more interesting. And then here we're going to have, I might put some foreground shrubs in there and here. Pretty much anyone can do that, which is the beauty of the Moore method of painting, and why 25,000 students around the world have come through our courses, is because pretty much anyone can do that, right? What I've just done there. Doesn't need to be a masterpiece in the drawing stage. Okay, so let's now do step 2 of the Moore method, and step 2 is going to be blocking in colour into our big shapes. Make sure we get our values right, so we get our shadows and light areas of our painting working well. So what I'm going to do is start off with our darkest darks, which are going to be in here, this wall here, and this wall here, and then we'll build everything around those darkest darks. So to get it dark, I'm going to take our ultramarine blue, our permanent crimson or alizarin crimson, and mix those two together. Now it's a little bit on the red side, so we'll just add a little bit more blue. I'm not going to add any white to this. Okay, I'm going to keep this fairly saturated tone here. Okay, under the roof line there. Like so, that's good. Okay. So again, anyone can do that. I'm using a big brush, big flat brush, and incidentally I'm painting on a 16 by 20 inch canvas here. Pretty much anyone can do what I've done so far. One of the keys is to mix up plenty of paint. I found when I was teaching one-day workshops and classes that students who struggled the most were the ones who didn't have enough paint out, mixed, and on their brush. So don't make that mistake, you know. Use plenty of paint up there. It'll just make your life that little bit easier. Okay, and then we need to get some of this shadow tone into that wall there. Like so. Now I know there's going to be a chimney here, so I might just run some shadow down that side of the chimney there. We can work on that as we go. Now I'll just add a little touch more blue and a little touch more red into that. And let's just maybe just get a little bit of a shrub, just a bit of grasses, just the shadow of that in there. We'll probably, most likely paint most of that out, but at least that gives us a little bit of a base to work on. And we might do a little bit on this side as well. Less on this side because this is our main sort of subject area here. But just a touch of it might help us out later on if we need it. Okay. Just run that in there and there and there. Now we've got these bushes here which are also dark, but I'm just going to work them more to the dark green side. So we've got a little bit of distinction there. And we can separate them from the shadow and know what's what. But we'll still keep it a dark at this stage. We'll add some sunlight into that later on. In the photo it shows it being a bit more sort of present, but I'm going to just make it a cooler blue and a lighter blue in there. So this is an opportunity just to work around those shapes, and by painting them out behind them we define the shapes of the actual little cottages a bit more. I'm going to run out of blue there, so I'll get a little bit more. Okay, so there's a bit of variance in the paint there because I had to keep remixing it. It's, there's a fair bit of variety in the background colours. And already you can see that there's depth starting to develop in there. And we're not going to use any white because this is the foreground. The only place we're using white is going to be in the background mountains and the roofs here, which are a lighter tone. So what this is going to do is really create this warm colour. It's going to come forward. It's a great earth colour for us to put grasses and things on as we progress the painting. Okay, we'll just put in a few little hints of grasses and things there now. Okay. Probably wants to be a little bit more yellow ochre, so I'll add a little bit more of that in a moment. But just over, see, I'm just putting a few little flicks there over those shadows of the bushes. So I can create some extra grasses, and that creates layers into what we're doing. Paint. Just mix that up a little bit so it's not all just that ready tone. I'll get in a bit of yellow in there as well. Best practice, I think. So now we'll take some white, we'll take some blue, we'll mix up a sky colour. Sky needs to be lighter than this mountain range here. It's too dark. Okay. So we'll just paint that in. I don't want it to be pale because I want to have a nice blue sky, so I'm going to darken it up closer to the top. Just merge it into that tree line. Like so. There you go, very simple sky, a little bit lighter here, a little bit darker at the top there, so we've got a bit of a gradient happening, and I think it's coming along quite nicely. We've got the bones here now of a good painting. I'm going to let that all dry off, and then we'll come in and we'll do a little bit of detailing in the background mountain. We'll work obviously on our little cottages here, a bit of foreground grasses and things, a few little fence posts, and then we'll have a great little painting done. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to leave this to dry off and see you in about an hour, and we'll bring this painting to life. And I think we're on track to have a nice little painting. So I'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back. This has dried off quite nicely and I think it's settled down pretty well. So we're now going to move into step 3 of the Moore method of painting, which is now to add in the details, the highlights, the finishing touches and so on. So we'll start off just getting a little bit of work into these buildings here, and this is corrugated iron on the roofs and so on. So we need to mix up that colour and then add in a little bit of the rust feel to it. So I'll just take that bit of blue there, take a big swipe of white. So it's going to be mostly white with just a little hinted blue reflection from the sky. And if you wanted to, you could take a little bit of the red and the yellow just to grey it a little. Probably want a little bit more white in there, like so. And this should be a fair bit lighter than the background there, so keep that in mind. And just paint it down that way as the sheets of corrugated iron would run that way. here, it runs down there. I probably need a little bit more of that dark. Notice I'm roughing up that edge because where that corrugated iron overlaps that shadow there, it is quite rough. Now there is a little bit of corrugated iron that comes out like that, and it sits above a window to create some shade, but it's just catching the light on the top there. So I think it's important to get that in there. Now that roof line's a lot lighter than that wall, so we'll come back to that in a moment, but this colour here exists in this wall there. Okay, that's working. So now we're just getting through a lighter version of that light there. So mostly white and whatever little bit of blue is left on the brush. Paint that's mostly rusted, this roof, but I'll just start off with that corrugated iron colour, and then we'll come back and we'll add the rust on it. In there, what we'll do though, we'll just strengthen up this chimney. So we'll just take the crimson and the yellow ochre, mix it to an orange. And let's just, it's a red-orange brick. I'm doing this fairly rough. I'm not trying to really paint highly accurate shapes. I'm just putting in rough tones and shapes. Because it's a rustic scene. You don't want this to be, every line to be millimetre perfect, and if you paint it too uptight, it's not going to have that rustic feel. Or at least that's my view anyway. Something like that. Blue, white, a bit of yellow ochre, and a little pinhead of the red to grey it, a little bit more of the yellow. Okay, it needs to be fairly light, so what we have to do here is just test. And that probably could work actually. Maybe a touch more blue in there, a touch more red. Now, light's coming sort of from this direction here, so let's just create little indications. Trees and so on. It's a little bit yellowy. I'll just get a little bit touch more blue in there. We don't want too many of these trees in there. In fact, we don't want too much detail out the back here at all. Just enough. And this is probably the biggest challenge, is knowing when is just enough. Certainly is for me anyway. So I'm going to suggest, because I've seen a lot of beginners, and I've been a beginner for most of my art journey, that when you think you're not quite there at that point of just enough, then you probably are. So stop sooner than what you might naturally think would be the right place to stop. Because you can always come back and add more on, which I'm sure you've done with other paintings. Okay, just creating little mushroomy shapes where the light's catching the top of those trees from this side over here. And what we want to do here is paint in some grasses, but not too many. Okay, so I'll use that same spot of green. We'll go blue and yellow ochre, but this time I'm going to put in an amount of the cad yellow. Okay, gives us a sort of an earthy green. And what I'm going to do, I'm lighting that brush up quite a lot. I'm just going to find a spot here and just gently drag it across. I'm going to allow that too for that canvas to just peel that paint off. So we get lots of broken paint texture in there. Because I'm just using a gentle pressure, and it gives us nice variety. Now you can see the difference between this green here and the green out the back. This green here is going to come forward and dominate the attention of the eye. So even that dry paint that I put on before, I had a couple of thick pieces of paint that created ridges through there, and that's creating nice little happy accidents in the way this paint's coming on here now, which is, that's what you want. You want to get that nice variety in there. You can see here I've just warmed up this grass, made it a bit yellower, brighter yellow. Put a few little clumps of grass poking up there. Touch more red for a bit more variety. And this green is going to harmonise against the earthy tone that we put in there. Whoop. Mix that around. That's a bit too dark what I want, so I'll get some more white in there. Just so we don't end up with a big section of grass. So what I'm going to do is just create some earthy tone in there. So just toning it back a little, and we'll just work that up in here, back into that earthy path there. You can leave plenty of that underpainting to shine through too if you want. Just soften those edges in there. Next thing I want to do is just take some red. Now we're getting close to finishing this painting. There's not a huge amount more we want to do, but I'll mix up a dark there, like so. And I think we talked about having fence posts, so we could probably just pop one right there. Okay, I'm just using a little flat brush to do that, and maybe one there. Leaning that way. You probably want to have them both leading into the painting, so it's not ideal the way I've done that one, but I won't make it as prominent. If you have them leaning into the painting, it just leads the eye into the painting. Don't want it to be too vibrant red, but this one here is pretty much all rusted out. I won't go all rusted out, I'll just do a few marks of it. one here, it has rust sheet there, a few spots down there, and there's not much on the roof, but I'll put in a couple of indications of it. Over here we've got definite rust issues here. And you know what? I think we're going to leave it there. There's lots more details and things that you could do, but I think it's, as a painting for pretty much anyone to have a go at, beginners and advanced, it's a good little project. And there's a lot more details we could do, and I'll leave it to you to add in more details, you can highlight more in the foreground and so on. But what I've shown you is there is quite a lot of layering and detail and so on that's occurred just because of the process and the way we've gone about it. So I think it's working as it is. It's depicting the three little cottages well. You can see what they are. It's got a lot of depth with that background mountain range there, and there's nice rich foreground and these deep dark shadows in the side of the building, which I think is really the key to this painting to make it work. It's a fun little project, and it really captures the essence of Australian sort of outback country, old cottages and buildings and things like that. So definitely one to have a go at. It's quite a bit of fun to paint this one. And again, it's rectangles and triangles to get these shapes in here, and anyone can do that, right? With the Moore method of painting, you can definitely follow along and have a go at this. So make sure you try it at home and just follow the 3 steps that I've shown you. And if you do that, 3 colours, I'll add the 4th one towards the end, but basically most of it's 3 colours, 3 brushes, 3 simple steps. That's why the Moore method of painting works so well for so many people. 25,000 people have been through our courses. Why don't you come and join them? If you go to www.learntopaint.academy, I'll put the link here, and if you go there, you look for the link that says free course and take one of our free painting courses, and I'll show you what we've just done here in more detail and talk you through the steps and the method and so on in more detail. It's a free course, so come. Then if you like what we do, for $1 you can trial access to the entire site. The Learn to Paint Academy now has 20 plus full painting courses and over 75 different individual painting projects like this one. So go and check it out. For $1 you can go and have access to everything there. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed this episode of Learn to Paint TV. I've certainly enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you next week, and happy painting until then. Cheers.